Park was late for class again. She ran across the campus of university, her bag hitting against her side with every step. The morning air was cold, and her breath came out in small white clouds. She had stayed up too late working on her architecture project, and now she was paying the price. The year was 2147. 50 years had passed since the Galactic Union made first contact with Earth. Had grown up knowing that humans were not alone in the universe. She had also grown up knowing that humans were not very important in the universe. The aliens had a ranking system for species. Earth was Class D. This meant humans were seen as weak, short-lived, and unremarkable. They were tolerated but rarely respected. Most aliens looked at humans the same way humans might look at small insects. Not worth hatting, just not worth noticing. Did not think about these things very often. She was 19 years old. She wanted to design buildings. She wanted to create spaces where people could feel safe and happy. The politics of the galaxy felt very far away from her simple dreams. She reached the lecture hall and slipped inside as quietly as she could. The room was large, with seats arranged in rising rows like a theater. About 200 students were already there, listening to Professor Nam talk about structural engineering. Found an empty seat near the back. Her friend Lee was sitting a few rows ahead. He turned and gave her a small wave. She waved back and opened her notebook. The lecture continued. Professor Nam drew diagrams on the digital board. He talked about weight distribution and material strength. Took notes carefully. This was the part of her studies she loved most. Understanding how things stayed standing. Understanding how to build something that would last. She did not know that, in less than 10 minutes, she would face something that no building could protect against. The first sign of trouble was a sound. It was like glass breaking but deeper, like the air itself was cracking. Several students looked up from their notes. Professor Nam stopped talking. Then the ceiling opened. Not collapsed, not fell, opened. A black tear appeared in the middle of the room, hanging in the air like a wound. It grew wider, and from inside it came a smell like rotting metal and burning plastic. Stared at it. Her mind could not understand what she was seeing. This was a rift breach. She had heard about them on the news. They happened sometimes on the outer colonies. Doorways that opened between dimensions, letting through creatures from places that should not exist. But they did not happen on Earth. Earth was protected. Earth was safe. The creatures came through. They were called, had seen pictures of them before in news reports about attacks on distant planets. The pictures had not prepared her for the reality. They were black and wet, with too many legs and too many eyes. They moved like shadows given form, quick and hungry. And they brought fear with them. It hit like a wave. Suddenly she could not move. Her legs felt like stone. Her arms would not respond. She could only sit and watch as the creatures dropped into the lecture hall, one after another after another. All around her, students were frozen in their seats. Some had their mouths open in silent screams. Others had tears running down their faces. Even the 2 security guards at the door stood completely still, their hands reaching for weapons they could not grab. This was the power of the. They did not just hunt their prey. They paralyzed it first. They sent out a wave of fear so strong that no living thing could resist it. Every species in the galaxy fell victim to this power. It was why they were so dangerous. It was why so many people died when rift breaches occurred. Watched the creatures spread through the room. Her heart was beating so fast she thought it might break. Sweat ran down her back. Every part of her brain was screaming at her to run, to hide, to do something. But she could not move. The creatures were heading toward the front of the room. The first few rows were filled with first-year students, the youngest ones. They sat frozen in their seats, eyes wide with terror. One of them was a girl with short hair and a pink jacket. She looked about 16 years old. She looked like her younger sister. Something changed inside. The fear was still there. It was still pressing down on her like a heavy weight, but underneath it something else was growing, something hot and bright and angry. These creatures were going to kill that girl. They were going to kill all of them. 200 students who had just come to learn. 200 people with families and dreams and futures. No. His hand moved. It was just a small movement, just her fingers curling into a fist, but it was movement. It was resistance. It was something that should have been impossible. She pushed harder. She thought about her parents. She thought about every person in this room who deserved to live. Her leg moved, then her other leg, then she was standing. The creatures noticed her immediately. They turned their many eyes toward her. She could feel their attention like needles pressing into her skin. But she did not freeze again. Looked around for anything she could use. On the wall near her seat, there was a fire extinguisher in a glass case. She grabbed a textbook from a nearby desk and smashed the glass. The sound was loud in the silent room. Every creature in the room turned toward her now. Good. She pulled out the fire extinguisher and threw it as hard as she could into the group of creatures heading toward the front row. It hit one of them and bounced away. The creature made a sound like metal scraping against metal. She had heard it, not much, but a little. More importantly, she had made them angry, all of them. They forgot about the frozen students. They forgot about the easy prey. They focused on the one thing in the room that was still moving. Park, architecture student, 19 years old, no special training, no special powers, just a girl who had somehow decided that she would not let these people die. The creatures rushed toward her. Watched from his frozen position, tears streaming down his face. He wanted to scream. He wanted to help. He could do nothing but watch as his friend faced the monsters alone. Grabbed a chair and threw it at the nearest creature. Then she threw another. She picked up desks and tipped them over, creating barriers between the creatures and the students. She moved through the room like a storm, always staying between the monsters and their prey. A claw caught her arm. Pain exploded through her body. Blood splashed across the floor. She stumbled but did not fall. Another claw caught her back. She fell forward, caught herself, and kept moving. The creatures were fast. The creatures were many. Was just one person, already bleeding, already tired. But she did not stop. She picked up a broken piece of desk and swung it at the creatures. She kicked. She pushed. When two unconscious students were about to be reached by the swarm, she threw her own body over them, taking the hits on her back instead. For 47 seconds, Park was the only thing standing between 200 students and death. For 47 seconds, she showed the universe what a human could do. Then the doors exploded inward. Soldiers in black armor poured into the room, weapons firing. The creatures screamed and burned. One by one, they fell. When the last creature died, the fear finally lifted. Students gasped and cried and collapsed, found that he could move again. He immediately looked for. He found her lying in a pool of blood near the front of the room. Her body was covered in wounds. Her eyes were closed. She was not moving. The medics rushed to her side. They worked quickly, desperately. One of them looked up at his partner with fear in his eyes. She was alive, barely. As they carried her out of the ruined lecture hall, no one knew that they were carrying a legend. No one knew that in the days to come, this ordinary girl would change how the galaxy saw humanity forever. They only knew that she had done something impossible, and that they were all still alive because of it. The video spread across the internet like fire. 17 students had been recording on their phones when the rift breach happened. When the fear paralysis hit them, their phones kept recording. The cameras captured everything. The tear in reality, the creatures pouring through, the frozen students. And one girl who moved. Within hours, millions of people had watched Park throw that fire extinguisher. They had watched her face the creatures alone. They had watched her bleed and fall and get back up again. They had counted the seconds along with her. 47 seconds. That was how long she had fought alone before the military arrived. In 47 seconds, she had saved 200 lives. Lee sat in a hospital waiting room staring at his hands. He could not stop shaking. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the creatures. He saw standing between them and the students. He saw her body being thrown across the room again and again. And he saw himself, frozen in his seat doing nothing. The doctors would not let anyone see her. They said she was in critical condition. They said the next few hours would decide everything. They did not say she would survive. They did not say she would die. They just looked tired and scared. His phone buzzed. Another message. Another friend asking if it was really in the video. He turned off his phone and put it in his pocket. In another part of the hospital's family had gathered. Her mother sat in a chair, holding her husband's hand so tightly that her knuckles were white. Her father stared at the door, waiting for any news. Ant's younger sister stood by the window, watching the crowds gathering outside. There were hundreds of people out there now. Some held signs. Some held flowers. Some just stood in silence, watching the hospital like it held something precious inside. Did not understand what was happening. This morning, her sister had been an ordinary university student. Now her face was on every news channel in the world. A doctor came through the door. Everyone in the room stood up immediately. The doctor's face was hard to read. She took a deep breath before speaking. Was stable. The wounds were serious but not fatal. She had lost a lot of blood. She had broken 3 ribs. There were deep cuts on her arms, her back, her legs, but somehow, impossibly, her vital organs were untouched. The doctor paused. There was something else, something she did not understand. His wounds were healing faster than they should, much faster. The doctors had never seen anything like it. They were running tests, but they had no explanation yet. His mother broke down crying. Her father held her tight, felt tears running down her own face, but she was smiling. Her sister was alive. Her sister was going to be okay. But the world outside was not going to let them have a quiet recovery. The Galactic Union had noticed. In the great halls of the Union Central Command, beings from 1,000 different worlds watched the video from Earth. They watched it again and again, trying to understand what they were seeing. The fear paralysis was absolute. It affected every known species in the galaxy. The science was clear. The brain simply could not function under that kind of psychic pressure. Movement was impossible. Yet this human had moved. High Ambassador of the Empire, a being that looked like a tall insect made of blue crystal, demanded an explanation. His species had lost 3 colonies to attacks. His people had the strongest mental defenses in the Union. Even they could not resist the fear. How had a weak, short-lived, unremarkable human done what they could not? The Union scientists had no answer. They suggested that perhaps the video was fake. Perhaps this was some kind of human trick. But analysis showed the video was real. The rift breach was real. The creatures were real. The girl was real. Ambassador made a request. He wanted the human brought to Union Central for study. He wanted to understand how she had done it. He wanted that power for his own people. The Union agreed to send a formal request to Earth. But Earth was already doing something of its own. In a secure room deep beneath Sol, Commander sat at the head of a long table. Around him were the leaders of Earth's United Defense Council. They represented every nation, every military force, every scientific organization on the planet. And they were all watching the video together. Commander was a man in his 60s, with gray hair and sharp eyes. He had spent his entire life preparing for threats from beyond Earth. He had seen many strange things, but this was something new. He paused the video at the moment when first stood up. He studied her face. There was fear there, yes, but also something else. Something that made him think of old stories. Stories of soldiers who ran into fire to save their friends. Stories of ordinary people who did extraordinary things. He turned to the others at the table. They had all seen the same thing. They had all reached the same conclusion. This was not a trick. This was not a mutation. This was something fundamentally human. Something that the galaxy had never bothered to measure because they thought they already knew everything about the weak little species on the blue planet. Commander made a decision. 50 years ago, when the Galactic Union first made contact, Earth's leaders had created a special protocol. It was called the Legend Rank. It was meant for humans who demonstrated qualities that the galaxy could not understand or quantify. Qualities that went beyond physical strength or mental power. Qualities like courage, like sacrifice, like the will to protect others at any cost. In 50 years, no one had ever qualified for Legend Rank. Some thought it was a silly idea, a symbolic gesture that would never mean anything. Commander did not think it was silly anymore. He stood and addressed the council. The Galactic Union saw humanity as weak. They measured strength in physical power, in mental abilities, in technology and weapons. By their measurements, humans were nothing special. But the Union had never measured what Park had shown today. She did not have special training. She did not have advanced technology. She did not have psychic powers or genetic modifications. She was just a young woman who decided that she would not let other people die. And that decision had broken the most powerful fear weapon in the galaxy. Commander proposed that Park be elevated to Legend Rank. He proposed that she become the first human to hold that title. He proposed that Earth show the galaxy what humanity was truly made of. The vote was unanimous. 3 hours later, Commander stood before the cameras of every news network on Earth. Behind him was the flag of the United Defense Council. In his hand was a document that would change human history. He spoke clearly and firmly. The Galactic Union measured strength in ways that suited them. They looked at humans and saw a weak species. They looked at Earth and saw a minor planet. They looked at the events today and probably saw an anomaly, a mutation, a lucky accident. They were wrong. Commander held up a photograph of. It showed her from before the attack, smiling in her university uniform. An ordinary girl, a student, nobody special. This woman did not have powers, he said. She did not have training. She had only the choice to act or to freeze, and she chose to stand between monsters and children. If the Galactic Union called that weakness, then they did not understand strength. He announced that Park was being elevated to Legend Rank. She was the first human to ever hold this title. From this day forward, she would represent the best of what humanity could be. Not because of what she could do, but because of what she chose to do. Across Earth, people watched the announcement in silence. Some cried, some cheered, some just nodded quietly, feeling something they could not name. In the hospital, his family watched on a small television in the waiting room, held her mother's hand. Her father wiped his eyes. Watched from his apartment alone, he still could not stop shaking, but now there were different thoughts mixing with his guilt. He had been frozen. He had done nothing, but his friend had shown him what was possible. Maybe next time he could be different. Maybe next time he could be brave too. And in a hospital bed, surrounded by machines and monitors, Park slept. She did not know that she had become famous. She did not know that the galaxy was watching. She did not know that her 47 seconds had changed everything. She only dreamed of the students she had protected and hoped that they were safe. They were. Because of her. 3 weeks passed. Park did not wake up. The doctors said her body was healing well, better than well actually. Her wounds were closing at a rate that should have been impossible. The broken ribs were mending. The deep cuts were becoming thin scars, but her mind stayed somewhere far away in a sleep that no one could reach. Every day her family sat by her bed. Her mother read books to her. Her father told her about the news, talked about school and friends and all the small things of life. They believed she could hear them. They hoped she would come back. Outside the hospital, the world continued to change. The video of 47 seconds had now been watched over 2 billion times. People made art of her. They wrote songs about her. They named their children after her. In schools across Earth, teachers showed the video and asked their students, "What would you do? Would you freeze? Would you run? Would you fight?" Most people said they would freeze. Most people were honest about their fear. But many of them also said they wanted to be different now. They wanted to be brave. They wanted to be like her. The Galactic Union sent their official request. They wanted brought to Union Central for examination. They used polite words and spoke of scientific advancement and the benefit of all species. But the meaning was clear. They wanted to take her apart and study her. They wanted to understand the impossible thing she had done. Commander sent back a simple reply, "No." The Union was not happy. They were not used to hearing no from a Class D species. They sent more messages. They made offers. They made threats, hidden inside diplomatic language. They reminded Earth of its place in the galaxy. Earth did not change its answer. This made news across the Union. The small blue planet was refusing the great powers of the galaxy. For a girl, for one ordinary human girl who had done something they could not explain. Some aliens laughed at Earth's foolishness. Some were angry at their disrespect. But some, a quiet few, began to look at humanity with new eyes. In a hospital room in Seoul, none of this mattered to the people keeping watch. Lee came every day after his classes. He sat in the corner of the room and studied. Sometimes he talked to, even though she could not answer. He told her about the lectures she was missing. He told her about the assignments he was struggling with. He told her that her professors had all given her perfect scores for the semester. He told her that her architecture project had won an award. He did not tell her about his nightmares. He did not tell her about the guilt that ate at him every night. He did not tell her that he had started training at a self-defense gym, pushing himself until his muscles screamed. He was trying to become someone who would not freeze next time. One afternoon, while was reading his textbook, came and sat next to him. She was 17 years old and looked a lot like her sister. Same eyes, same quiet strength. She had been coming to the hospital every day after school just like him. She asked him a question. She asked if he thought would be angry about all the attention, all the fame, all the people treating her like she was something special. Thought about it for a long time before answering. He said that would probably hate it. She was always the kind of person who avoided the spotlight. She liked working quietly, doing her best, helping others without asking for thanks. She would probably be embarrassed by all the songs and statues and news stories. But he also said that maybe it did not matter what wanted. Maybe what she had done was bigger than just her. Maybe the world needed someone to believe in. Maybe humanity needed to remember that ordinary people could do extraordinary things. Nodded, she understood. Then she asked another question. She asked why blamed himself so much. He was surprised. He had not realized it was so obvious. He tried to explain. He had been there. He had been her friend. And when the moment came, he had done nothing. He had frozen like everyone else. He had watched her fight alone. He had let her get hurt. Was quiet for a moment. Then she reached out and put her hand on his arm. She told him that would not blame him. She told him that no one could have done what did. She told him that the important thing was not what happened during those 47 seconds. The important thing was what happened after. Had shown them what was possible. Now it was up to everyone else to decide who they wanted to be. Felt tears in his eyes. He wiped them away quickly. Across the galaxy, similar conversations were happening. On a trading station at the edge of Union space, a group of young aliens watched the video of. They were from different species, different worlds, different cultures, but they all felt something when they watched the small human girl stand against the monsters. One of them, a being with 4 arms and silver skin, said that his people had always looked down on humans. They called them weak. They called them insignificant. They said humans only survived because the galaxy did not care enough to destroy them. But watching this video, he felt ashamed. His people had never produced anyone like this. His people were strong, yes. They were powerful, yes. But when danger came, they calculated. They measured risks and rewards. They asked themselves, is this worth dying for? This human did not calculate. She just acted. She decided that those students would not die, and then she made it true. She did not ask if it was worth it. She did not think about herself at all. That was something his people could not do. Maybe that was something worth respecting. His friends were quiet. They were thinking similar thoughts. Far away on Earth, the first signs of change were appearing. Volunteer numbers for military and emergency services increased by 300%. Universities reported a surge of students wanting to study fields that could help others. Hospitals were flooded with blood donations. Charities received more money than they could spend. Something had shifted in the human spirit. A door had opened. And then, on a quiet morning 3 weeks after the attack, Park opened her eyes. She was alone in the room. Her family had gone to get breakfast, was in class. The nurses were busy with other patients. She looked at the ceiling and tried to remember where she was. Her body felt strange, light and heavy at the same time, strong and weak together. Slowly she turned her head. She saw the flowers by her bed, hundreds of them in every color. She saw the cards piled on the table. She saw the gifts stacked in the corner. She did not understand. A nurse came in to check on her and screamed. Within minutes, the room was filled with doctors. They checked her eyes. They checked her heart. They asked her questions. What is your name? What year is it? How do you feel? Answered them patiently. Park, 2147, tired but okay. The doctors looked at each other with amazement. By all medical knowledge, she should not have recovered so quickly. She should not have recovered at all. But they had stopped being surprised by Park. Her family arrived minutes later. Her mother cried and held her. Her father stood behind them, tears running down his weathered face, squeezed in and grabbed her sister's hand, refusing to let go. Was confused by their emotions. She asked what happened. She asked how long she had been asleep. She asked if the students were okay. That was her first question, not about herself, not about her injuries, about the people she had protected. Her mother laughed through her tears. Yes, she said, everyone was okay. All 200 students had survived because of her, because of what she did. Relaxed, she closed her eyes and smiled. Good, she said, that was good. She did not ask about the fame. She did not ask about the legend rank. She did not ask about the songs and statues and the 2 billion people who had watched her fight. She only asked about the people she had saved. That was who she was. That was why she was a legend. Spent 3 more days in the hospital for observation. The doctors said she was healthy. More than healthy, actually. Her body had changed in ways they could not explain. She was stronger now, not dramatically but noticeably. Her reflexes were faster. Her senses were sharper. And there was something else, something the machines could detect but not identify. An energy inside her that had not been there before. On the 4th day, 2 visitors came. The first was a man in a military uniform. He was tall and calm, with a face that showed nothing. He introduced himself as Doha, a liaison from the United Defense Council. He said he had been assigned to help adjust to her new situation. The second was a woman in her 40s, with short gray hair and kind eyes. She wore simple clothes and carried herself with quiet confidence. She introduced herself as. Recognized the name. Everyone knew about. She was one of the awakened. The awakened were humans who had developed special abilities. There were only 12 of them in the whole world. Scientists did not fully understand how or why they existed. Some said it was evolution. Some said it was mutation. Some said it was something even stranger. Sat down next to his bed and smiled. She said she was sorry to meet under these circumstances. She said she wished they could have talked under better conditions. But time was short, and there were things needed to know. Listened quietly. Explained that the rift breach at university was not an accident. Normal rift breaches happened at weak points in reality, usually in space or on uninhabited worlds. They did not happen inside buildings, inside classrooms, inside protected planets like Earth. Someone had opened that breach deliberately. Someone had sent those creatures to attack the students. Felt cold. She asked who would do such a thing. She asked why. Shook her head. They did not know yet. The Defense Council was investigating, but they had some guesses. Some factions in the Galactic Union did not want humanity to rise. Some feared what humans might become if given the chance. The attack might have been a message, or a test, or the beginning of something worse. His hands tightened on her blanket. She thought about the students. She thought about the girl with the pink jacket. She thought about how close they had all come to dying. For what? Because some aliens were afraid of humans. Doha spoke up. He said there was more to explain. He said survival had triggered something inside her. The doctors had detected it, but they did not know what it was. Only the awakened could understand. Nodded. She asked to focus on her hand, to really concentrate on it, to imagine energy flowing through it. Did not understand, but she tried. She stared at her palm and focused as hard as she could. For a moment, nothing happened. Then she felt it, a warmth spreading from her chest through her arm and into her fingers. A gentle light began to glow around her hand. Gasped and pulled her hand back. The light faded. Smiled. She said that humans had something the galaxy did not know about, a hidden potential that lay dormant in their DNA. Most people live their entire lives without ever awakening it, but extreme stress, extreme danger, extreme emotion could sometimes trigger it. Had faced something that should have killed her. She had pushed past limits that should have been impossible, and in doing so, she had awakened. She was now one of the awakened, the 13th. Shook her head. She said this did not make sense. She said she was just a normal person. She was just a student who wanted to design buildings. She was not special. Laughed softly. She said that was exactly what made special. The awakened had different abilities. Some could control fire. Some could move objects with their minds. Some could heal wounds with a touch. Each ability was unique, tied to the personality and nature of the person who had it. Had spent time studying his case. She believed she knew what ability was. It was called absolute will. Had resisted the fear paralysis not because of physical strength or mental training. She had resisted because her will was stronger than their fear. Her desire to protect those students had been so powerful that it had broken through an attack that affected every other species in the galaxy. And now that power had become permanent, could resist any mental or psychic attack. No fear, no mind control, no mental influence could touch her. But that was not all. She could also share this protection with others. Anyone near her could benefit from her resistance. She was a shield, a living protection against the things that attacked the mind. Sat in silence, trying to understand. Doha said there were people who wanted to meet her. The Defense Council had questions. The Galactic Union had demands. Scientists wanted to study her. Politicians wanted to use her. The whole world was waiting for Park to step into the spotlight. Shook her head. She said she did not want any of that. She did not want fame or power or attention. She just wanted to go back to her normal life. She wanted to finish her studies. She wanted to design buildings. And Doha exchanged a look. Said she understood. She had felt the same way when she first awakened. The attention was overwhelming. The expectations were crushing. It was normal to want to hide from it. But some things could not be hidden from. Some responsibilities could not be avoided. Had become a symbol. Whether she wanted it or not, people looked at her now. They saw her as proof that ordinary humans could be extraordinary. They saw her as hope. If she disappeared, if she hid, that hope might die with her. Thought about this. She thought about the students she had saved. She thought about the conversations happening all over the world. She thought about the people who were trying to be braver because of what she had done. She asked one question. She asked if she could still go back to university. She asked if she could still study architecture. Smiled. Yes, she said. Could still live her life. She could still pursue her dreams. Being awakened did not mean giving up everything. It just meant having more responsibilities, more challenges, more people depending on her. But she would not be alone. The other awakened would help her. The Defense Council would support her, and her family and friends would always be there. Took a deep breath. She looked out the window at the city beyond. 2 weeks ago, she had been nobody, just another face in the crowd, just another student worried about assignments and grades. She had never asked for anything more. Now she was something else, something bigger, something she did not fully understand yet. But she had faced monsters and survived. She had protected 200 lives with nothing but her bare hands and her stubborn heart. Whatever came next, she could face that too. She turned to Ndoha. She said she wanted to know everything. She wanted to understand her power. She wanted to learn how to use it to help people. But first she had one request. She wanted to see the students, the ones she had saved. She wanted to know that they were really okay. Nodded, that could be arranged. And so, 3 days later, Park walked into a small auditorium where 200 people were waiting for her. They stood when she entered. They clapped. They cried. They reached out to touch her hands, her arms, her shoulders. They thanked her with words and tears and hugs. Moved through them slowly, speaking to each one. She asked their names. She asked about their studies. She asked about their families. She remembered the girl with the pink jacket. Her name was O. She was a first-year physics student. She had written a letter every day during the coma. Cried when she saw. She tried to thank her, but the words would not come out. Hugged her gently. She said that did not need to thank her. She said that what happened was not about heroes and victims. They had all survived together. They were all connected now. When finally left the auditorium, she felt different, lighter, more certain. She had not asked to become a legend. She had not wanted the power or the attention. But maybe that did not matter. Maybe what mattered was what she did with it. She could complain about the burden, or she could carry it. She chose to carry it. That was what humans did. The Galactic Union delegation arrived on Earth 6 weeks after the attack. It was the first time high-ranking alien officials had visited the planet since first contact 50 years ago. Back then, they had come to inform humanity of its place in the galaxy. They had come to explain that humans were small and weak and unimportant. They had come to offer membership in the Union as a gesture of charity, nothing more. Now they came again, but this time something was different. 3 ships landed at the United Nations Plaza in New York. They were beautiful machines, made of metals that shimmered in colors humans had no names for. Crowds gathered to watch, kept back by barriers and soldiers. Cameras broadcast the event to every corner of Earth. From the ships emerged beings that humans had only seen in images and videos. There was High Ambassador of the Empire, tall and crystal blue, with a voice like wind through ice. There was Trade Minister of the Collective, a creature of flowing silver that seemed to have no fixed shape. There were others too, representatives of powers that controlled thousands of worlds. And waiting to meet them was Commander, along with the leaders of Earth's major nations. And Park stood in the back of the human group, wearing a simple blue suit that had helped her choose. She felt out of place among the politicians and generals. She was not a leader. She was not trained for diplomacy. She was just a student who had been in the wrong place at the wrong time. But Commander had insisted she be there. He said her presence was important. He said the galaxy needed to see who she was. The formal greetings took almost an hour. There were rituals and ceremonies that had to be observed. Alien customs that humans had to respect. Stood quietly through all of it, watching the strange beings from other worlds. She had never seen an alien in person before. They were more real than the images, more alive, more frightening. But she had faced death itself. These beings were just people from very far away. Finally, the delegation moved inside for the real discussions. The meeting room was large and plain, designed to avoid favoring any species preferences. A long table ran down the center, with chairs adapted for different body types. Screens on the walls showed translations in dozens of languages. High Ambassador spoke first. He congratulated humanity on producing someone like Park. He called her an anomaly, a mutation, a statistical impossibility. He said that her existence had prompted the Union to reconsider humanity's classification. He offered a proposal. The Union would elevate humanity from Class D to Class B immediately. Humans would gain access to better trade agreements, better technology, better opportunities. In exchange, the Union asked only one thing. Park would be transferred to Union custody for study and training. The ambassador's voice was smooth and reasonable. He explained that power could benefit all species. He explained that Union scientists could help her understand and control her abilities. He explained that this was a great honor, rarely offered to any individual. He did not mention that would never return to Earth. He did not mention that she would spend the rest of her life as a subject in Union laboratories. He did not mention that her body would be analyzed and experimented on until there was nothing left to learn. He did not need to mention these things. Everyone in the room understood. Commander did not respond immediately. He turned to. He asked if she wanted to speak. Was surprised. She had expected to sit silently, a symbol rather than a participant. She had not prepared any words. She did not know what to say. But she stood anyway. She walked to the center of the room, aware of all the alien eyes watching her. She felt her heart beating fast. She felt her hands trembling slightly. But she did not freeze. She would never freeze again. She spoke in a quiet voice, and the translation systems carried her words to every being in the room. She thanked the ambassador for his offer. She said she understood what the Union was proposing. She said she was just a student, not a diplomat, and she hoped they would forgive her simple words. Then she said something else. She said she was not an anomaly. She was not a mutation. She was not special. Ambassador made a sound that might have been a laugh. He said that her humility was charming but misplaced. Clearly, she was exceptional. No normal human could have done what she did. Shook her head. She said that any human could have done what she did. Any human who loved someone enough. Any human who cared about others more than themselves. She said that what she felt in that moment when the creatures came for the students was not special. It was just human. Humans had always been like this. Throughout their history, ordinary people had done extraordinary things. They had run into burning buildings to save strangers. They had jumped in front of cars to push children out of the way. They had stood up to armies with nothing but words and courage. The galaxy measured strength in physical power and mental abilities. They looked at humans and saw weakness. They were not wrong. Humans were weak. Their bodies were fragile. Their lives were short. They had no natural weapons, no mental powers, no special gifts. But they had something else. They had the ability to choose. They had the will to act when everything inside them screamed to stay still. They had the capacity to care about others so deeply that fear became meaningless. That was not luck. That was not mutation. That was what humans were. Looked directly at Ambassador. She said she would not go with them. She said she would not leave Earth, not because she thought she was too important, not because she was afraid of what they would do to her, but because she belonged here, with her people, with her family, with the students she had saved. If the Union wanted to understand humans, they should not take her apart in a laboratory. They should watch. They should learn. They should see what humans did every day in small ways and large ways when they chose to protect each other. Then she sat down. The room was silent. Ambassador's crystal face showed nothing. Trade Minister rippled with colors that might have meant anger or surprise or something else entirely. The other aliens whispered among themselves in languages the translators struggled to process. Commander stood. He said that Earth declined the Union's offer. Humanity would rise on its own terms, not as specimens to be studied, not as anomalies to be explained, but as equals. The ambassador's voice grew cold. He said that Earth should consider carefully. He said that the Union had been generous. He said that this generosity might not last forever. Commander did not blink. He said that Earth had considered. He said that humanity's answer was no. The meeting ended shortly after. The alien delegation returned to their ships. They did not say goodbye. They did not look back. As the ships rose into the sky, stood with Commander and watched them go. She asked if she had done the right thing. She asked if she had made things worse. Commander shook his head. He said she had done exactly what was needed. He said that for 50 years, humanity had been bowing and scraping to the galaxy, trying to earn respect through submission. It had never worked. The aliens had only looked down on them more. Today had shown them something different. She had shown them a human who would not bow, a human who spoke truth to power, a human who believed in her own people. Maybe the Union would be angry. Maybe they would make trouble for Earth. But maybe, just maybe, they would start to see humanity differently. Change did not come from giving in. Change came from standing up. Thought about this as she watched the alien ships disappear into the clouds. She had never wanted to be a symbol. She had never wanted to speak for all of humanity. She was just a girl who wanted to build things. But maybe that was exactly what she was doing now, building something, not a building, something bigger, a new way for humans to stand in the galaxy, a foundation for the future. It was terrifying, it was overwhelming. But she was not alone. And she would not freeze.